Hey guys, and welcome back. So, in my last video where I talked about the roster additions, I did mention GEW. You're probably thinking, what the heck is GEW? Well, for short, I know it sounds like it says I'm saying Jew, but with a G. And it's not WWF. It's just what I call basically Golden Era Wrestling. That's the federation. It's GEW, Golden Era Wrestling. So you've got standard Ultimates that have been built by Mattel, because the Coliseum Collection made it possible for some of these, as well as lots of customs. So let's get started. First off, Muhammad Ali. No boxing gloves. He basically is a celebrity in the Fed that just kind of shows up and wrestles here and there. Then you got Andre the Giant. Andre wasn't, in WWF in the 90s, he wasn't around. He died by 93, so he really was more of an 80s golden era kind of guy. And golden era is basically starting of WWF up till the 90s. I know Hogan was in the WWF roster. That's fine because he still stayed around for quite a while. These are guys that were kind of more or less bigger. So Sergeant Slaughter, okay, he's going to be in that golden era more than anything. I know he didn't win his belt till 90, but still. Or was it 91? No, I think it was 91. I don't know. I think it was 91 because in 90 they had WrestleMania. Yeah, it's 90. I would know it was 90 because 91 he lost the belt in 91. Mr. T, he was big in wrestling. It wasn't for him and Hogan. WrestleMania wouldn't have been, if it wasn't for Mr. T's involvement, I think. So, now, here comes some customs. Well, first, I got a couple more here. So, obviously, Jake the Snake Roberts. Let's face it, his best years were before all the alcohol and drugs took over. So, Roberts definitely back in the golden era in the 80s. Is that everybody? That's natural. Yes, it is. Okay, that's everybody's natural. So, let's begin with the first one. Now, I used the head from the T'Challa toys, I think it was. We were still waiting on the Sabu to show up when that company folded. They showed a picture of Charlie Haas at one time, a render, but it never showed up. So I used, I think it was a Bulldog. If I remember correctly, he either built the Dynamite Kid and the Bulldog combo set, and they used the Dynamite Kid from the Jakks Pacific figure. The head was too massive, so I swapped it out and made Dynamite Kid. Obviously, I just swapped the head. The body was already built. So we got Dynamite Kid, definitely a guy that was in golden era with the Bulldogs. Of course, you saw British Bulldog earlier in the WWF roster because he went on to do more stuff along the way. Dynamite kind of checked out around the end of the 80s. This one, I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm thinking about switching the feet at least. Definitely getting rid of the boots. I can't switch the torso because it's already been re-glued. But he was hard to find. Very expensive elite. And like I said, I'm planning to switch the boots. Maybe see if I can put his bare feet back on there. But Kevin Von Erich, excuse me. Kevin Von Erich is in there. Right now he just kind of got the Bob Orton look. And it's not the end of the world, except for the problem is I have Bob Orton in this brand as well. So there's Bob Orton. Of course, we got an Elite Bob Orton. I decided to get an Ultimate Bob Orton because I was also going to make a Piper originally as well. And then Mattel announced they're making a Piper, so I don't need to make one. He's already going to be there. He's going to be in a different brand, so Bob's kind of on his own. And like I said, Kevin's going to get changed. I'm going to switch out his feet and make his... he wrestled barefoot a lot of times. So there's those two. These two cost me a little bit as well. And I did have figures of them. In fact, I still have one of them in non-ultimate form because I haven't found a body type yet. Although I may have found one looking at these buffer, wider torsos of Brock Lesnar to make it work. I just got to buy some Lesnar's to tear it apart. And I'm going to do it. But I've got Demolition, Axe, and Smash. And I already talked about these in one of my fig views. I'm not doing too much about it. But you can see with his a little bit more. It's not really super noticeable unless you're looking at it from like up close, but really when you back it away, you can't tell. Of course, they only ever got one Mattel release. In fact, I think My Damn Toys was talking about it on his channel about how he never had these figures. I've had these figures a few times, but each time I lose these figures or I get rid of these figures, I regret it because it costs me more and more. These aren't leaving. These aren't leaving this time unless they officially announce them, or maybe I find some parts or they re-release them and I can add different parts or get, obviously they're updated arms. There's a standard. He's got double jointed because he had no tattoos, but Smash has a tattoo, so we'd go to the standard single jointed arms. Still a great, tag team. And they do have tag belts, or they will once the Mattel LJN Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart come out. I'm going to use those LJN tag belts for this brand because I try not to use the same belts over and over again. You already saw the WWF titles were on the Money Incorporated. The silver version of them are on a different brand entirely, which I'll promote that one in the future. This next one, I used the original Sid. I remember now. I didn't sell it. I sold off to someone similar, but I did sell the original Sid because I was going to put this on a different body. I think it started with a Paul Orndorff body, and it looks so terrible because he's not as tall as this figure. So I used the Psycho Sid, took the head off, kept the arms on, put the very hard to find and very good, and this one's got a little dirty to it. I should probably take it and wash it, but I'm afraid it might damage it. I mean, it is an older cloth. It's none other than Hillbilly Jim. Now, of course, if you're a younger fan, you're probably going, who are these people? But if you're an older fan like I am, and I didn't grow up in this era. I was definitely before my time, these guys were. But I grew up in the Attitude Era. I also like to watch history of wrestling. I like to know the ins and outs of wrestling. I used to perform pro wrestling until I got injured, and cancer came back 3 times. So, believe me, being 6'10" and almost 300 pounds, back before cancer and before I started getting into my 30s, I could have done something. I probably, easily could have done something. But every time I start to get momentum going, I got derailed either through an injury or through cancer. So I tried out for Tough Enough. Tried out for a few things. I've done some acting gigs, but I was always a heel, as a natural heel. But I digress. You have the cloth, you have the head. Finding like a Sid or a buff body easily works because he was, kind of jacked. He had a very strong pose. Like I say, he wasn't the greatest wrestler, but he looked like this. This is Hillbilly Jim right here to me. Maybe Mattel will release one on the LJN Coliseum Collection line. Maybe. I don't know. So then I found this one, and again, another good use of a Brock Lesnar torso. There's a little spot I do need to remove. The skin tone matches pretty well. Who am I talking about? The Rock, Don Morocco. And I so want to build, I'm going to talk about who I'm going to try to build here in the future to try to add more into this roster. Of course, this roster is pretty much bookmarked for certain individuals. Don Morocco, huge in the 80s. I'm trying to get, I did have a Jimmy Snuka. I took apart my Jimmy Snuka. I'm trading, somebody lightened up the skin tone a little bit on one of his heads, so I'm going to see if I can't find a way to mesh that to work to make an ultimate Jimmy Snuka. I'm going to trade him a non-lightened, boiled head because I couldn't find a body type that works currently. So I'm hoping that by lightening it and using an Eddie Guerrero torso, I can maybe mesh something together. If not, just go with his Legends 1 look, but update it to an ultimate. So, spoiler. This person built this one, and I give him props because I don't think I ever would have combined these two to make this figure. He has a figure coming out in Elite here pretty soon, in Legends, but he was definitely sorely needed. And it's, I won't cuss, but make him humble, break his back. I ran the number 1, USA Haktui. That's terrible, I know. I got my retainer in for my non-existent braces anymore, but still, you pay $7,000 for braces, you keep the retainer, you do what you can to keep your teeth. But really good job. It looks like what he did is I think he built using 2 different torsos, combine it. Another great customizer, same guy who built the Sid. I bought a few of his people. I haven't seen him post anything else. Otherwise, I probably would have snagged more, but I think he ran out of ideas. I've noticed that. Like, you're not seeing a lot of people building customs unless they're really going all out. Like, I got a Moose figure and Steve Macklin figure that I will show off in the future. And, I mean, you really have to go into detail with that. But Iron Sheik, perfect example of Iron Sheik. He's not, overly... It's not his, like... This would be in his, like, prime look. And very tight joints. Very posable. I can definitely do the camel clutch with it. So, and then this guy came along, and I kept saying, okay, we got T, we got Hogan. You're showing pictures of T picking up Piper, and that's definitely an ultimate look. So you got 3 of the 4. Where's the 4th? Why isn't he getting any attention? Well, I don't know if they're ever going to make one or not of him, so I said screw it and got one made myself. And when I saw someone had posted that they had made him, I immediately snapped it up. You need the 4th man, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, the current GW television heavyweight wrestling champion. I decided they need a middleweight belt as well. So you're going to see the world champion here shortly. Yes, I know it's an NWA belt, but it doesn't say NWA on the belt. They wiped that away with the red coloring. So it just says television heavyweight wrestling champion. So it could be anything. It's a great looking belt. Back in the day, they did have, colored, different strap colored belts sometimes. It's like they're, the Intercontinental titles with the WWF brand, so I had to make a middleweight belt. Tag belts are going to be on the way when they arrive with the Neidhart and Bret Hart when they make them. I do have custom belts coming, but they're currently not here. That's why I'm not showing off the custom brands a lot, because their belts aren't here yet, like the UWF and such. But they use, I think, a Triple H torso. It matched well with the skin tone on him. There's a little discoloration here and there, but you can't really, again, you can't notice it. So unless you're really fine-tooth combing it. So that was all the people I acquired. Except for I built Hillbilly Jim myself. Everybody else I pretty much acquired. Here are the people I built myself. So I started out just about maybe a month ago starting to do this, and I made a mistake right off the bat. And I do regret it, and I'm going to redo this. I'm going to buy the figure again. The Mr. T torsos are like $17 right now, so I'm snagging a few of those. I plan to, consider making an R-Truth figure. I'm still debating on if I can make that work or not. Maybe it's a K-Quick figure until I get his tattoos from a customizer painted on there. But I wanted a more lean cut looking figure, and all I really have to do is go back, find proper red or blue if I do the blue, cut, break apart the middle, and then reattach with the lesser bulging crotch piece, if you will, the gut piece, and you'd have a better junkyard dog. You can see right there, it's just too much. It looks way too bulky. Right there, it's terrible. You can see the difference. And that's what's a shame. Now, someone said I could shave it down. I'm not about to start butchering this thing. He did have a very lean cut at one time. And also, when I was starting to do this, I did not... I wasn't as careful as I can be now. And I ended up gluing and keeping the torso glued down. I didn't break it. It's still in there. It's just unfortunate the glue got in there. I wasn't careful as much as I should have been. And so he does not have torso movement. He doesn't spin. He can still move like this though. So he is definitely, he was a learning curve. I had to, I didn't know what I was doing as well. I think for the most part I really got good on the sides. It's just this part right here. So I'm going to get another one. This time I'm going to take the legs off, which the legs are not on ball joints. They're on ratchet joints. All junkyard dogs are. So it's going to have to take, and I don't have to take the whole thing off. I have to split it, take this part, the front part off, get another red piece of somebody else's attire, smaller person, reattach it, keep the legs obviously still intact, re-glue it, then attach the torso, and then take and just, make another junkyard dog. Once I do that, this one's definitely going on Macari. for people who want a junkyard dog and just don't care that you can't tell in the back when it's on the shelf back here. It's only up close and sideways can you see the weirdness on there. So if you want to make a junkyard dog, that's how you can do that. So this next one, I might revisit in the future. I might make it to where it's more wrestling attire. I literally just used a Dynamite Kid Ultimate custom torso that was kind of really damaged from the paint movement. I don't know what they did to it. I don't ask questions where I got it. But I realized if I swap the boots, I throw on the jumpsuit, I throw on the head, you will have no clue there's a Dynamite Kid underneath this. Who am I talking about? The Honky Tonk Man. The greatest Intercontinental Champion the Honky Tonk Man is. And so I just threw it on there. Of course, obviously, if I want a wrestling attire one, I'm going to have to go back and find a better formula to put that together. But for now, this is great. I mean, he did wrestle a little bit in this. Mostly, I know he took it off. He wrestled in his shorts and whatnot. But this works a little bit for right now, the Honky Tonk Man. I can either wait for, I think people are going to start using George Steele torsos to try to fill that gap in. I can always look at, the blue one or the red one, any of them that were released. And again, now they know how to do that whole splitting of the crotch piece. I can always reattach a smaller piece. I used it with the Jerry Lawler. It was easy with Austin because it was already there. But obviously you got to find a color. I may have to acetone off any detail that might be there. Looking back, I'm thinking at the Honky Tonk Man right now. I don't think anything in front. I think it was just the back that has decals. So it'd have to be the front that I have to swap up. So there's always that option. Of course, there's also an option of using Brock, but then he'd be way too jacked. So there's Honky Tonk Man. Great on the shelf. Now, this one I did not build. I forgot I did not build this one. Speaking of Brock Lesnar torso, works wonders for him. He does have a main release line coming up in the future, but I didn't want to wait for it, so I went with Bruno Sammartino. Now, I know there's no chest hair, which is a little bit of a shame. Looking back, you probably can build something. I'm trying to think. There's chest hair on the Elite, probably. There's probably going to be chest hair on the green attire one. So I might revisit that one, but at the same time, this works. I mean, he's not super. He's definitely bulky, because he was. And so this works. Of course, he's the GEW World Heavyweight Champion. He defeated the next individual I'm going to show right now. And again, I'm trying to keep these videos within 20-25 minutes. I mean, if the rosters are big, the rosters are big. I try to cut them down. I try to keep them all equal. You're going to see there's 8 of these brands. Then there's 3 brands of AEW. There's 6 brands of custom Elite figures. There's a small little new basic articulation / boss fight basic figure brand. Countless Elite brands, including old school called the CWF. So you're going to see all these things in due time. This next person was from the originally the CWF brand, the Central Wrestling Federation, if you will. And I looked at him, and I thought, why couldn't I just throw an Ultimate Warrior torso on this? I mean, and then throw his arms on there. And then you'd have a 1970s, perfectly to go with the GEW brand, superstar Billy Graham. And that's what I did. And what's nice about it, it moves. This one I take good care with because his figure's not super hard to find, but I really want to make sure if I'm going to build guys for my own Fig Federation, that I take with care with them. Now, I could rush them and mess up, or I can take my time. So I made sure to really take my time, make sure I really heat that up, make sure I really splice and hold these together. This one, a little bit of a mess up. And what happened was, as I was putting the back piece on, I believe the middle piece did not fully connect, or it might have been one of the side pieces was not separated. So when I tried to pop it back in there, I didn't push enough on one side, and so it's glued in there. It's not going anywhere. That glue, when I put it on when I use it on my finger, if I don't take that off the figure within like a couple seconds, I feel the rip. I feel the stickiness to it. So it definitely sticks real fast. I leave it overnight, let it dry easily in the colder temperatures of my condo. Then I take it over here to my other work where I store stuff, because I'm here 4 nights a week taking care of adults with disabilities. So I focus on, when they're asleep or when they're playing their video games, I focus on building my fig fed and just kind of doing my own thing, because I got my Goosebump books to read for the heck of it, because I want to finish all of them before I die. TV is only so much you can watch. So I build my figures at home, and then I bring them here to stay with the other ones. I keep some stuff back. I keep all my stuff to make stuff back in my home, because I'm not keeping sharp knives and X-Acto knives and such around these guys. I gotta be very safe about it. They're also really cool with it, though. They understand that I'm a nerd and I have a hobby, and they are very respectful. They ask me if they can see the new stuff, but they don't mess with the new stuff. Like, they like to look at the wall of all this. Is all my stuff I brought over here just to kind of store it, because I had no room for it in my condo. But I digress. The point is, I made Billy Graham, Superstar Billy Graham. Mattel is supposed to be announcing someone from the golden era. My hope is it's going to either be Stan Stasiak, Ivan Koloff, Pedro Morales, Buddy Rogers, Gorgeous George. I'd be okay with any of those guys. I know that we've got the Legends of Wrestling just to announce Jack Briscoe and Kamala, Dory Funk Jr., and Wahoo McDaniel. I do have, it cost me a lot of money, a Chief J Strongbow. The back torso portion is a little indented, which is why I got it for a steal compared to what other people pay. It wasn't no $2,500. It was still up there in value, though. Luckily, paying $4 makes it a lot easier to obtain these kind of figures nowadays. So I'm debating on if I should take the head, if I should take the lower half. And he did wrestle without the singlet at times. It was a weird colored attire, so maybe if I should take the head and just kind of hodgepodge them together and make him an ultimate. I mean, I'm not going to probably get rid of the figure. It's definitely, it sounds sacrilegious to take such an expensive figure, but he is already damaged a little bit, so I'm kind of kicking myself thinking about if I should do that or not. It's not a perfectly mint condition figure. It's already been damaged. It's definitely a factory reject, if you will. So I'm going to look at the skin tone a little bit. Maybe I might do something that crazy. I don't know. I'm thinking about building a Hideo Itami Ultimate and selling my actually unreleased Hideo Itami figure that, I paid way too much for. But at the time, I wasn't customizing. I didn't really get into customizing, so I realized, wow, you can do a lot of cool stuff with customizing. That being said, I'm also thinking about trying to build Tito Santana. I'm currently looking at trying to build Harley Race and Nikolai Volkov to add into the GEW brand. Rick Martel, I currently have a body already built, and I'm waiting for the customizer to send me the head. He sent me a head with glasses that are attached to him. I want non-attached glass, so I paid for the non-attached glass head. It's going to show up my Sean O'Hare figure in the future. I'll apply that to it. That's going to go to their WWF roster or the WCW roster. I'm thinking I'm going to probably put it back to WWF roster because it is his model look, not his late 97, 98 Booker T World Television Championship run. So those are in the pipeline. A redone Junkyard Dog. I thought about maybe doing Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but also he does fit really well in the WCW roster. So I'm deciding if I'm going to do that yet or not. I thought about maybe adding Killer Kowalski. I have the Killer Kowalski head from the Jack Pacific. I'm wondering how it's going to look if I pop it on like a bigger, wider body. He did have long, lankier legs, so I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. Other ultimate ideas. Obviously, the Killer Bees, I don't have the ability to do that. Jimmy Snuka is still very highly sought after. I know, given all the stuff, when I have a Benoit in my Ultimate collection, okay, it's not going to affect me what happens in their personal life. That's their personal life, not my fandom as a wrestling fan. George Steele will be in this brand. Piper's going into the Hogan brand, but George Steele definitely is going to this brand. Jim Neidhart will probably be going this brand as well, unless I buy another one and then fix it up to make it more look like a 90s Hart Foundation look, which I'm debating on doing, but I also don't have the Owen Hart to match that. The Bulldog looks perfect. Brett will look perfect. I'm making a Brian Pillman. I already made a WCW version of him once, and I'll tell you the nightmare of that story and how I really didn't know what I was doing when I first started to build these things. Luckily, I'm a fast learner, and I got through the curve really quick. So that's what I'm planning for the golden era right now. If a big body comes through and I can make it into a Big John stud, I'll add that in as well. But I don't see that being the case right now. Maybe Coliseum Collection Series 5 will be released or announced sometime in January. Who knows what to expect when we see the WWE.com December review come up here in the near future. Obviously, I'd show you George Steele, but he's not here yet. I paid for him. In fact, I bought 2 of him and 2 Pipers. Because you can't buy them separately. So when they show up, Steele's going in this brand, Piper's going in the WWF brand. Stay tuned. Next up is the WCW roster. Till next time.